This is a question from past papers on Bilging. A box-shaped vessel 180 by 20 meter is floating in water of RD 1.015. The vessel has a midship tank of 30-meter length, extending for the full width and height of the vessel. Tank, which is slack, contains seawater to a sounding of 8 meters. The draft KM transfers, GM fluid, and FSM of the vessel are 6 meters even keel. Draft is 6 meters even keel. KM transfers is 7 meter. GM fluid is 0.75 and FSM is 1010 meter. Calculate her draft, forward draft, and GM transfers after this tank is bilged by damage below the waterline. So you can see this is the drawing. This is a side elevation of the box-shaped vessel, and this is the plan view, the top view at waterline. So this is the tank exactly at the midship. They have said the length of the tank is 30 meter and is extending to full breadth of the vessel and full height of the vessel. This tank is already having some salt water and it gets bilged. So two things will happen here. As soon as this tank is bilged means the liquid or the water inside it can flow in and out freely. So it becomes a kind of it becomes open to the sea. So that means the salt water which we had initially in the tank will be discharged, and this will cause a mean rise because the displacement will become less. The weight of the liquid in the tank will be discharged. Now the second thing will be that because we lose the volume, underwater volume of the bilged tank, the tank which is bilged, so it's not providing any volume of displacement. So the ship will sink to regain the lost volume. Now, what will be the final draft? That remains to be seen. If the mean rise due to discharge of the liquid weight was more than the sinkage, or the sinkage was more than the mean rise, the resultant of the two will decide whether the ship, what will be the final draft of the ship. So, initial condition, when the ship is still intact, the displacement was underwater volume into density. It's a box shaped vessel. Underwater volume will be length into breadth into draft. And she is floating in RD 1.015. RD of the seawater is 1.015. So underwater volume into density, that gives the initial displacement. Okay, this is underwater volume and this is the density, and we get 180 into 20. Initial draft is 6 meters, 1.015 is RD of seawater, and 21924 tons. Initial displacement of the vessel before bilging. What is the weight of the seawater in the tank? Because it says that the tank is containing seawater. Seawater means 1.025 will be the density. So length of the tank 30 meter, depth of the tank 20 meter because it is extending across the full width of the vessel. So length of the tank into breadth of the tank multiplied by the sounding. 8 meters is the sounding because it's rectangular. So this will give the volume of the water inside. multiply by the density of seawater, which is 1.025. So we have 4,920 tons of seawater in this midship tank. GM solid is given by GM fluid plus FSC, because from GM solid we subtract FSC to get GM fluid. The question In the question they have given us GM fluid. I need GM solid to get my kg. So I will add the FSC. FSC due to this slack tank, FSM upon displacement. FSC is FSM upon displacement, free surface moment divided by displacement. And GM fluid is 0.75. Free surface moment is 1000, displacement is 21924. That becomes FSC, and I get GM solid as 0.796 meter. This is before bilging. And what's the kg of the vessel? Okay, we know km minus kg gives a GM solid, and km transfer they have given us in the question. GM solid we have found just now, so we can get the kg. Kg will be km transfers minus GM solid. So km initial is 7 meter minus 0.796, and we get 6.204 meter. This is the initial kg of the vessel. Okay, what will happen now after bilging? As I said, this 4,900 tons of ballast water, seawater in the tank will be completely discharged, because the tank will be laid open to the sea. It will be no longer part of the vessel. So the ship's displacement will reduce, ships will have a mean rise, draft will reduce, and of course the kg will change. So initially the displacement was 21924, and we found the kg, initial kg 6.204, vertical moment multiply W into kg. Then weight discharge 4,920 tons of salt seawater is discharged from the ship. Is kg will be half of the sounding, because it's a rectangular tank. So half of the sounding is 8 meters. Kg of this tank will be 4 meters. So vertical moment multiply 4920 into 4, 19680, and we subtract because weight has been discharged. So 17004 ton. This is the displacement of the vessel after bilging. And the kg will be this final moments, vertical moments upon final displacement, gives final kg 6.842. Now this data will be used as the data for calculating our stability due to bilging. Now, effect of bilging, we will now calculate effect of bilging using this as initial data. Initial displacement 17004, and initial kg 6.842. So what will be the main draft after this the bilging? Again, length into breadth into new draft into 1.015 will give the displacement 17004. So this D2 is a new draft after bilging. Means after considering the effect of discharge of seawater, 4.654. So this kind of will become like an initial draft now for the bilging condition, 4.654. So the ship, whatever is the underwater volume, according to this, as per this draft and displacement, that underwater volume will remain now constant. The ship will maintain that underwater volume after bilging. So there will be the effect of bilging will be increase in draft to maintain this underwater volume now. Volume of lost buoyancy upon intact water plane area. Length of the tank 30 meter, breadth of the tank is 20 meters, and the draft below the water under that we will take now is 4.654 because the weight of the seawater has been discharged. So ship is now down to 4.654 is the draft, and because our ship's displacement is now corresponding to this draft. So the volume of lost buoyancy will be the tank, length of the tank 30 meter, breadth of the tank 20 meter, and the draft will be around 4.654 upon intact water plane area. So the breadth remains the same as 20, the length will reduce by 30 meter. So intact length will be 180 minus 30 into 20. So we get 0.931 meter mean sinkage. So final draft now. So this was the intermediate condition when we that we can call intermediate condition when we calculated the draft due to discharge of seawater, and now the effect of bilging sinkage we add to this draft and we get 5.585. So generally, when the tank is empty, an empty tank is built, the ship sinks to regain the lost volume and the draft increases. But we can see that in our case, the initial draft before bilging was 6 meters and final draft after bilging is 5.585. It's less than, actually the draft has become lesser despite of the mean sinkage due to lost buoyancy because of the reason that there was 4,900 tons of seawater in the tank which got discharged after bilging, and that gave a mean rise also. So 5.585 meter. KB again, if we don't consider the central midship tank now, but the remaining intact underwater volume on the forward and aft side of that tank is still rectangular. So KB can be taken as half of the new draft, 2.793, 5.5 upon 2. It will be 2.793. Because as you can see, that this is the side elevation. So if you remove this portion, the middle portion, don't consider this because it's not providing any buoyancy. But the intact portion, aft and forward of it, is still rectangular. There are two rectangles together. So the KB will again be just half of the draft. Now to calculate GM, we need KM. And for KM, we need KB plus BM. So I got the KB here. What about the BM? BM is, now to calculate BM transverse, I need transverse moment of inertia upon underwater volume of the intact portion, disregarding the damaged portion. Only the intact portion I consider. So the transverse moment of inertia is about the central line of the water plane. So the water plane is rectangular, but the length of the water plane is intact length will be 180 minus 30. So 30 meter is the length of that tank which is built. So effective length becomes 150 meter. for calculating the moment of inertia, L B cube. So length of the water plane multiplied by cube of the breadth of the water plane upon 12, because this is a rectangle. So length will become now 30 meters shorter, 150 into divided by the underwater volume. So here the new displacement after bilging was 17004. After we discharged that 4,900 tons of seawater, it was 17004. Divided by the density of seawater. Displacement upon density of the seawater will give underwater volume 16752.71 meter cube. And this is how I just wrote in the slide. For calculating the BM, we are using intact length of the water plane. Intact length is 180 minus 30, 150 meter. Here. Okay, so 150 into 20 cube upon 12 divided by underwater volume gives 5.969 meter transverse BM. So KB plus transverse BM will give transverse KM 2.793 plus 5.969, 8.762 meter. Subtract the kg 6.842 and I get GM 1.92 meter. So whatever was the free surface movement because of the slack tank does not exist any longer, because the free surface, the water is not a part of the ship anymore. That seawater is discharged and the tank is now built. So the tank also is not a part of the ship. So there is no consideration of free surface anymore. The free surface effect due to that slack tank is no longer considered. So GM will be just 1.92 meter. They have asked in the question draft forward and aft. So since it's a midship tank, so there will not be any shift in the center of flotation of the water plane area. So that means the the center of buoyancy and the center of flotation, they will not shift to create a trimming moment. So draft forward and aft will remain when the ship will continue to remain even keel. If she was on even keel and the tank was midship, so she will continue to remain even keel. There will be just bodily change, bodily rise from 6 meter to 5.585 meter forward and aft. Because in order to have change in draft forward and aft, there must be a trimming moment. And for trimming moment, we need the tank. If the tank was not midship, it was forward of the center of rotation or after, there will be a trimming moment. But at this moment, the tank is exactly midship, and the center of rotation of the box-shaped vessel is also midship, because it's a rectangle, so it's both are at midship. So there is no change in the center of rotation, no shift. Okay, so that's the only thing about this question, that the key point here is how to deal with the seawater. The tank which is built, it contained a seawater up to sounding of 8 meters. The draft was 6 meter and they gave sounding 8 meters. So that is just to cause some confusion, but it has got no meaning. The sounding of the 8 meters is just for calculating the weight of the seawater inside the tank. Okay, thank you very much.